We're going to go ahead and continue our media availabilities for today. We are now joined by Kyle Busch, driver of the number 8 McLaren Custom Girls Chevrolet for Richard Childress Racing. Kyle, thanks for joining us today.
Sure.
If you guys have a question, please raise your hand and we will get a mic over to you. Who wants to start? We'll start with Zach in the back.
Zach Sterniello, NASCAR.com. Kyle, we've talked about it with the other road courses on the schedule this year, but just the lack of stage cautions, how will that impact what we see here at Sonoma? Because I feel like it was a little bit more evident here that it impacted strategy maybe more than some of the other road courses on the schedule.
Yeah, I mean, to hear whether or not it's a 2-stop race or a 3-stop race, I think is still kind of be determined on pace fall off and things like that, but that's kind of what the guys are initially looking at and seeing where that kind of falls. But yeah, I mean, you would always jump the stages and then you'd have the cautions and then you'd have to go back green, all that sort of stuff. So I feel like making it a more traditional road course race lends itself to, and we kind of saw it at COTA too, where there was actually a lot of there was still a lot of cautions, right? Where maybe guys kind of knew or felt the pressure of, if it gets too strung out, there's no chance for me to keep closed up, and they'll run into somebody and create a yellow, you know. So that could certainly sometimes be the case as well here at Sonoma. You know, the leader here, till he runs into lap traffic, typically has a good advantage of just having that clean air and everything else to kind of walk away a little bit. So it makes it a lot tougher to try to come from the back without restarts.
We're going to go to Bob and then to Reed in the back.
Bob Hawkers, Fox Sports. NASCAR announced some changes to the cars effective of Atlanta based on what they saw from the reconstruction of the 541 accident. I'm curious what you think of those, and then any lingering concerns as far as rear impacts with Gregson being out this week.
Yeah, bummer for him. I mean, we saw a few big impacts last week. His seemed to be the worst just after the brunt of how it all transpired, right? So, you know, not being able to just get up right side of the wall and not take a huge hit. But, you know, the safety advancements of the car and things like that, that's all great, right? We need it to withstand big hits and hits like that and whatnot. But, you know, I feel like we keep adding material and keep adding weight and keep making these things heavier, you know. We used to run 3,400-pound cars. Now we're like 3,600-pound cars. So what's the limit? What's the level of how heavy is too heavy? So, you know, there's a few, just talking to some of the engineers that I've spoken to, like there's a few areas of the car that are really, really, really stiff and don't have any sort of crush zone like the old car used to, and that's why those bars broke. And so we didn't look at any of that. We didn't cut any stuff out to soften up the frame rail, for instance, to let the frame rail flex. All we did was add stiffeners to make it even heavier and stiffer. So, again, I'm not a genius, but at some point we all have to reimagine some things.
We'll go to Reed in the back and then to Claire, Lee, and then Jeff.
Reed Spencer with the NASCAR Wire. Your win at Gateway was your 63rd. Next on the list above you is Earnhardt with 76, and then Jimmy and Cale Yarborough with 83. Do you look at that as realistic goals that you might be able to achieve?
Yeah, I mean, I would have said, you know, probably the 2015 to 2019 time frame when I was winning 5-6 at a clip, that's definitely, you know, obtainable. And then we kind of slowed down the last few years, and then I would have probably told you, I don't know if I'll get there. And then this year we've got 3, and I feel like there's plenty more, you know. So hopefully we can continue to showcase that at RCR with the 8 car and go out there and win some more. So, you know, I think anything's possible. I think it would be more fair to talk about, I guess, once I at least hit 70, right? Which, you know, that could probably happen by the end of next year. So hopefully it does.
We'll go to Claire, then Lee, then Jeff.
Claire Belang, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. Now that you've got your win most recently in 3 wins, now people are starting to say, well, we thought that Austin Dillon would learn more from Kyle, or that he would win, or look how Kyle's racing and Austin isn't there yet, or, you know, is it hard for him? And then how do you boost him and help him? And all, you know, the rising tide floats all boats, right?
Yeah, I would say Austin's actually, given his finishes, probably not as good as he wants his finishes to be, but where he comes from in a race, starting deep in the field, he's had some unfortunate circumstances on Fridays or Saturdays to get himself qualified well, but he flat out outran us at Bristol Dirt, at Martinsville, at North Wilkesboro, the places with the low downforce stuff that us on the 8 are struggling with. But, he's like last week, for instance, right? Like he ran in the teens for a while, and he was slated to run probably 8th to 10th. So I don't think that's out of the ordinary for him and those guys. They're, with a new crew chief with Keith coming over and getting ingrained into the system, it's probably a little bit more difficult on that side with those guys. But I still think there's time, and Austin's fine. He's a competitor. He's got a lot going on behind the scenes as well. But, I really enjoy working with him. He's been a great teammate, and, we say a lot of the same things and talk a lot about how to continue to improve and make our stuff go. So that part of it has been really fun.
So he helped bring you there, right? You said you didn't sense any sense of, hey, it's kind of hard. This is Kyle Busch, right? And I don't know what the curve is of, bringing things up.
Yeah.
And
No, I mean, I would say obviously he looked to me and wanted me to help elevate RCR and also help elevate himself, So I feel like I've been able to do both of those things. I just don't know that the results are necessarily indicative to Austin standards or maybe to some of our other standards, and I think there's still a work in progress on that front.
Lee Spencer, CatchFence.com. What are your expectations for Chicago street course?
To hit the walls minimally, where you don't create too much damage, where you can still continue, and hopefully you don't get pile driven into a wreck if the track gets blocked. So I don't know. It's gonna be tight. It's gonna be narrow. So we'll just have to kind of see when we get there about what exactly it looks like. Looking at it on sim is probably entirely different than what it might feel like or be like when you get out there on the racetrack.
As the only driver in the Cup Series, active driver with 2 championships right now, how do you approach the playoffs? Because, with 3 wins, you're locked in. But, I mean, can you take everything that you've learned from the other 2, even though you're with a new organization, and kind of have your strategy mentally going in there to know how you want to approach it this year?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the consensus of how we've done things when I had Adam was always really good. We came up with a good system, good format that we looked at and kind of followed, and it seemed to work really well. So I need to talk to Randall about that. I haven't really gotten that far ahead yet, but it would be a good discussion point to look at some of that stuff, some of the same things that we did there. So it's all about maximizing stage points, right? Whether you're winning stages and getting those points, which is awesome, or just maximizing your stage points throughout a race to get the best finish possible all day long to get those all-important points. So, that's probably one thing that we really executed well last week at Gateway, obviously, going 1-2-1. But, weeks prior to that, we've kind of been on the struggle bus with being able to maximize our stage points through the year. If I could have gone back and recalculated all the stage points that we've probably lost, we'd be the points leader. You know what I mean? So it's just a matter of hitting it perfect.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Kyle, we've gotten to see some of the parts that have been confiscated recently, NASCAR displaying them, which is interesting for us not being in the race team part of it. But I'm wondering from a driver perspective, are you guys interested in seeing what other teams have been doing, like with the 14s part that they put on display?
Yeah. I wish we had a What an Idiot award. I mean, Jesus. Even if you can't find that part, you can call one of the other race teams and say, hey, you guys got this? We can buy it from you? That blows my mind. I don't get it. For as little as that probably meant, that was a huge fine to the pocketbook and points book. So anyways, yeah, no, I think it's kind of cool that that they show all that stuff and show exactly what's going on and what guys are doing. And so, I mean, and we're all what's crazy about it though is all the penalties that have come out of the tech center. I guarantee you could take 15 of them after every single race, and there would be something wrong with 14 of them. So it's all the tricks and what you're trying to do and what you can get away with all the time.
Are there any other questions for Kyle? We'll wrap up in the back with Reed.
Reed Spencer with the NASCAR Wire. Did you enjoy inducting Kurt into the West Coast Hall of Fame the other night?
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. Congratulations to Kurt on being inducted into the West Coast Motorsports Hall of Fame. That's really, really cool. Something special. I remember, years ago seeing some of the names that were getting enshrined and inducted in, and it's really neat to have Kurt be a part of that, and hopefully one day, obviously, me be a part of that. But growing up in Vegas is two little punk kids and making it big time with not a lot of money, just a lot of talent was certainly really special. So he did a great job of kind of paving the way for me through other circumstances also to get to the levels that he was able to get to and beat the doors down that he was able to beat down and become a champion and a driver with a bunch of success. So it's been fun to see that, although I'm sure he kind of wished he could have ran out the rest of his time in the Cup career as he wanted to, but I think he's made a lot of the right decisions here in all of that, so it's good to see him getting rewarded for his time spent here in NASCAR.
All right. Kyle, thank you for your
Yeah,
time.
thank
Good luck
you.
this
Yep.
weekend.